Hello and welcome to Uzreport World News, and my name is Bahram Kafarov. The Opec Fund for International Development signed a $50 million loan with ACWA Power to aid construction and operation of a 1.5 gigawatt combined cycle gas turbine power plant in Syria, Uzbekistan. The new plant, located near the border with Tajikistan, is to replace outdated and inefficient thermal power facility, resulting in lower operating costs and a significant reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. The Opec Fund and Uzbekistan have been development partners for more than 2 decades, and it was established in January 1976 by 13 member countries of OPEC, including the United Arab Emirates. The institution was established as a channel of aid to developing countries. 2 vaccines against the coronavirus COVID-19 created in Uzbekistan are included in the list of candidate drugs of the World Health Organization, the press service of the Ministry of Innovative Development of the Republic said.
2 vaccines against the coronavirus created in Uzbekistan are included in the list of the candidate drugs of the World Health Organization, the press service of the Minister of Innovative Development of the Republic said. Earlier, the Prime Minister of Uzbekistan, Abdullah Aripov, said that Uzbekistan could start producing its own vaccine against coronavirus by the end of 2021. Uzbekistan started the mass vaccination on April the 1st, and over 370,000 people have been vaccinated so far. Currently, Uzbeks are being vaccinated with the AstraZeneca vaccine and the Anhui Zhifei Lancome biopharmaceutical recombinant Chinese vaccine. In March, only 1.6 million doses of these drugs were delivered to the Republic. According to the calculations of the country's Ministry of Health, about 4 million people, or more than 11.5% of the country's population, are planned to be vaccinated against COVID-19 in April-June. By the end of 2021, this number may grow to 7 million, or about 20% of the population of the Republic. Tashkent plans to receive another 5.5 million doses of vaccine from China and AstraZeneca by the end of June. Negotiations are also ongoing to sign an agreement on the Russian Sputnik V vaccine and to purchase an additional batch of AstraZeneca. Meanwhile, 302 people tested for coronavirus in the country on April the 18th, bringing the total number of cases to 86,982. The biggest number of patients are still from the capital city. So far, 84,307 people have recovered from the disease in Uzbekistan. On December the 10th, Deputy Prime Minister Begzat Musayev initiated the start of clinical trials of the Uzbek-Chinese vaccine in the country. With the assistance of the Embassy of Uzbekistan in China, Zhifei Lancome Biopharmaceutical delivered to Uzbekistan 6,000 test vaccines, 12,000 PCR, and 8,000 antibody tests, and all other necessary materials. The 3rd testing stage of the coronavirus vaccine of the Chinese company Anhui Zhifei Lancome has begun in the Republic on December the 10th, 2020. The vaccine showed high efficacy and high levels of antibodies. The laboratory tests showed that the vaccine retained neutralizing activity against the South African strain of the coronavirus. It also proved to be effective against the British and Brazilian strains.
Siemens AG and Stone City are planning to modernize 4 thermal power plants in Tashkent, the German conglomerate said following a meeting in Uzbek capital. The meeting discussed cooperation with the company in the field of energy, in particular the construction of power plants and thermal stations, as well as the development of hydrogen fuel. It was noted that a number of ministries and departments of the country are ready to establish relations with Siemens AG on the basis of public-private partnerships. If necessary, the service centers would be open to service German equipment and local specialists would be trained. The parties exchanged views on improving energy sustainability, uninterrupted supply of electricity and heat to the population, condition of service facilities and their gradual commissioning in accordance with the modern requirements. Uzbekistan's first and only rubber plant said on April 17 it was planning to produce $51 million worth of goods by the end of this year. Located in the territory of the Free Economic Zone of Angren, the plant was put into operation in 2018. Today, it produced automobile and agricultural tires, rubber fabric and rubber wire conveyor belts.
Equipped with the most modern equipment imported from Germany, Holland, Italy, Japan and China, the plant covers an area of 33 hectares. The annual production capacity of the plant is 3 million automobile tires of 21 types, 200,000 agricultural tires of 2 types and 100,000 linear meters of conveyor belts of 27 types. This year we plan to produce 1.6 million tires. We have decided to master the production of 38 types of car tires. It takes a month to master a single type. We also plan to export 20,000 car tires to Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan and Ukraine. Negotiations are underway to export goods to Azerbaijan. Tires undergo several stages of laboratory testing. In particular, they undergo tests for strength, wear resistance and resistance to high speeds. Each type of raw material is tested at the experimental laboratory. Then a sample of the product is made. Then we test the strength, viscosity and wear resistance of the rubber. And after that, a production permit is given. We produce a semi-finished product, which we send to the laboratory. Whereas the plant produces tires for export, a question arises why it does not supply tires for the domestic producer Uzauto Motors. Car tires are currently undergoing homologation, and only after this process we will be able to supply tires to Uzauto Motors. According to Samajonov, the plant is currently on the verge of meeting these requirements. Starting from September of this year, 60,000 car tires are expected to be delivered for Damas model. Starting from 2023, it plans to supply 1.2 million car tires worth $37.4 million for the domestic car producer. The overall capacity for the year end is set to comprise 1.6 million automobile tires, 30,000 agricultural tires and 73,500 linear meters of conveyor belts.
The Interior Ministry of Uzbekistan urged citizens to be attentive to notifications in social networks warning about new type of internet fraud. A fake mailing of an appeal with a request to transfer money in the amount of 240,000 Uzbek soums to a bank card was revealed on behalf of the Department for Combating Cybercrime of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The requested amount is allegedly necessary to combat elements that distribute various kinds of prohibited materials, including those that promote violence, cruelty and contain pornography, the ministry said in a statement. For the first time in history, Uzbekistan's Rhythmic gymnastics national team triumphed in the all-around stage of the World Cup held in Tashkent. Nilufar Shomuradova, Dinara Ravshanbekova, Ksenia Alexandrova, Sevara Safaeva, Kamola Irnazarova have topped among the 8 participating countries in the exercise with 5 balls, receiving a score of 41.25 on the first day of the tournament. On the second day, the teams performed with the 3 hoops and 2 pairs of balls. In that type of program, young Uzbek female athletes scored 35.15 points. The high difficulty of this exercise allowed the team of the Russian trainer Ekaterina Piroshkova to beat the strongest competitors with a total of 76.40 points. The next stage of the World Cup is set to be in Baku, Azerbaijan on May 7 to 9.
Top U.S. infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci on CBS's Face the Nation Sunday predicted that U.S. health regulators will end the temporary pause on distributing Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine, adding he expected a decision could come as soon as Friday.
I would be very surprised, Margaret, if we don't have a resumption in some form by Friday. A decision almost certainly will be made by Friday. I don't really anticipate that they're going to want to stretch it out a bit longer.
U.S. health regulators recommended last week that use of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine be paused after reports of 6 cases of rare brain blood clots in women, out of some 7 million people who have received the shot in the United States. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Advisory Panel is set to meet on April 23rd to discuss the next steps for the vaccine. Fauci said he does not know what the final decision will be, but he predicts there will be a resumption.
One of the possibilities would be to bring them back, but to do it with some form of restriction or some form of warning.
Fauci on Sunday also laid out a possible timeline for when children could be vaccinated against COVID-19, predicting that by the first quarter of 2022, the U.S. will be able to vaccinate children of, quote, virtually any age.
At least 3 people were killed on Sunday in a shooting at an Austin, Texas apartment complex in what was the second shooting in the United States in one day involving multiple victims. Austin Police Department Acting Police Chief Joseph Chacon said a manhunt is still underway for the suspect.
Our suspect, at this point, we think we know who it is. He is tentatively identified as Stephen Nicholas Broderick. He's a black male, 41 years of age. He's described as being 5'7" with an average build. He's wearing a gray hoodie, sunglasses, and a baseball cap.
The shooting occurred near a popular shopping area in the northwest part of the city, startling local residents.
I'm a little worried just because, we know a lot of our neighbors and our dogs were here and everything, I guess it's our neighborhood, so that's really scary.
Officials noted that while the suspect is still at large, the shooting appears to be a domestic isolated incident, and there appears to be no risk to the general public. 1,200 miles away, another shooting rang out early on Sunday morning when a gunman opened fire at a bar in Kenosha County, Wisconsin, killing 3. The violence comes as Americans are already on edge after a spate of deadly mass shootings in the United States over the past month.
Syria will hold a presidential election on May 26th that is virtually certain to return President Bashar al-Assad for a third term. An event that Washington and the opposition say is a farce designed to cement his autocratic rule. Assad's family and Ba'ath Party have ruled Syria for 5 decades, with the help of the security forces and the army, where his Alawite minority dominates. This year is the 10th anniversary of a bloody crackdown on pro-democracy protesters, which triggered a civil war that has left much of Syria in ruins. The conflict has sucked in world powers, killed hundreds of thousands of people and displaced millions. But it's now nearing its end, with Assad, supported by Russian and Iranian allies, back in control of most of the country. Candidates for May's election must have lived in Syria for the last 10 years, which prevents key opposition figures in exile from standing. Assad came to power in 2000 after the death of his father, longtime President Hafez al-Assad. His supporters say Washington and its Western allies are seeking to bring Assad down with the crippling sanctions they have imposed.
The Czech Republic and Russia have kicked out dozens of each other's diplomats in what's now become their biggest dispute since the end of the communist era. The Czech Republic ordered 18 Russian diplomats to leave within 72 hours after linking Russian spies to a 2014 explosion at an arms depot southeast of Prague. On Sunday, Moscow in turn kicked out 20 Czech diplomats. Prague says it's told NATO and the EU that it believes Russia was behind the explosion years ago, and EU foreign ministers are set to discuss the matter on Monday. Czech police say that days before the explosion, 2 men using the names Alexander Petrov and Ruslan Bosharov had traveled to the Czech Republic. Those 2 names are also aliases connected to 2018 poisonings in Britain of former Russian spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter. Russia has called Prague's allegations absurd, since Czech authorities previously blamed the blast on the depot's owners. It also accused Prague of striving to please the United States against the backdrop of recent U.S. sanctions against Russia. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department commended Prague's firm response to, quote, Russia's subversive actions on Czech soil.
Alexei Navalny's daughter Dasha has pleaded with Russian authorities to allow a doctor to treat her father, who is on hunger strike in prison, after a group of medical professionals warned that he is in critical condition and at risk of kidney failure. The Stanford University student tweeted on Sunday, "Allow a doctor to see my dad." She joins a chorus of international public figures and Russian opposition regional lawmakers who are calling on Vladimir Putin to make sure the Kremlin critic is properly treated. On Sunday, Navalny allies announced a street protest to be held on Wednesday, the same day Putin is to give an annual State of the Nation speech to the political elite. Navalny started refusing food in protest on March 31st, after accusing prison authorities of refusing to properly treat acute back and leg pain. Authorities say Navalny was offered medical care but refused it, insisting on being treated by a doctor of his choice from outside the facility. The request was denied. A medical trade union with ties to Navalny warned on Saturday that his kidneys could soon fail, which could lead to cardiac arrest. In a television interview with the BBC, Russia's ambassador to Britain accused Navalny of attention-seeking, adding, quote, "He will not be allowed to die in prison." US President Joe Biden's national security advisor Jake Sullivan told CNN on Sunday there will be consequences if he does.
The tiny eastern Caribbean island of St. Vincent was blanketed by ash on Sunday, where authorities said the La Soufriere volcano erupted yet again in the late afternoon. Some 20,000 people have been evacuated from their homes since eruptions began last week, many staying in shelters in the island's capital, Kingstown. Layers of ash as thick as 8 inches have destroyed crops, contaminated water, killed animals, and devastated infrastructure, leaving some roads impassable and slowing down search and rescue. So far, there have been no reports of casualties or injuries, but many of the island's 100,000 residents are struggling with shortages. Several Caribbean neighbors have donated cots, food, masks, and respiratory tanks. St. Vincent's volcano was dormant for decades, with its last reported eruption in 1979. Officials have warned activity could continue for months.
A dozen of Europe's top-tier football clubs announced Sunday they have formed a breakaway league, a move set to create seismic repercussions for football's global landscape. All of the English Premier League's Big Six, including Manchester United and Liverpool, have signed on as founding members. They join Italy's AC Milan, Inter Milan, and Juventus, as well as Spain's Barcelona, Atletico, and Real Madrid. The plan was announced just one day before a planned meeting to redesign the format of the Champions League from 2024. The so-called Super League now sets up a rival to the Champions League and has drawn widespread backlash from football's global and European governing bodies, FIFA and UEFA. UEFA said it would ban any club involved in the breakaway from playing in its domestic league. UK and France's Prime Ministers Boris Johnson and Emmanuel Macron both also condemned the move. In a statement, the league said it plans to launch as soon as practicable. It said the founding clubs will be given more than $4 billion, quote, to support their infrastructure investment plans and to offset the impact of the global health crisis. A study last year by the European Club Association said the top football clubs were likely to sustain losses of more than $4.5 billion, given worldwide restrictions on sports. No clubs from Germany or France are associated with the new league yet. But the Super League said they're still looking for 3 more clubs to join as founding members.
What do you do with $69 million artwork that doesn't physically exist? That's the question faced by the Singapore-based investor calling himself Metakovan, who made headlines last month when he bought the digital artwork Every Day's The First 5,000 Days by the American artist Beeple at Christie's. The work is a non-fungible token, or NFT, a new type of virtual asset that has its ownership status and authenticity verified by blockchain. Metakovan is looking to showcase his art by working with architects to design virtual galleries the public can enter through web browsers or virtual reality technology. But art is just one part of the new blockchain-based economy where land, buildings, avatars, and even names can be bought and sold as NFTs, often fetching hundreds of thousands of dollars. These new environments referred to as the metaverse. Metakovan's business partner, who goes by Tubador, told Reuters in an audio interview that gobbling up NFTs is just the tip of the iceberg for eager investors.
The real explosion will happen when they're able to figure out and they're able to experience these NFTs as they were intended. I mean, if it's a plot of virtual land, you ought to move around in it, have an immersive experience in it.
Prices for virtual land plots are already soaring. One of the best-known online environments, Decentraland, has seen more than $50 million in total sales, including land, avatars, and virtual clothing. A patch of land measuring 41,216 virtual square meters sold for $572,000 on April 11th, which the platform said was a record. Sébastien Bourget, co-founder of virtual world The Sandbox, even went so far as to say he thinks the NFT economy would outgrow the real-world physical economy within a decade.
Because there's just no limit, there's no barrier, no physical limit for goods to travel. There's no logistic, no shipping, no limit to creativity, no limit for people to enter.
Decentraland, which has already hosted a virtual fashion show in collaboration with Adidas, is also attracting interest from festivals looking to go viral due to the global health crisis, said events coordinator Samuel Hamilton.
When we get to that point, we expect hundreds of thousands or even millions of people.
In what will be one of the biggest names to join the party, video game maker Atari told Reuters it planned to launch its own blockchain-based virtual world. It has already licensed a retro arcade within Decentraland and is due to open a casino. But some investors caution that while big money is flowing into NFTs, the market could represent a price bubble, with the risk of major losses if the hype dies down, and ushering in what one expert called a crypto winter. And there's no virtual overcoat to protect against that.
So far, these have been the latest news for today. Goodbye. Take care.